Welcome back to the shop, patrons. I've got a little bit of a test I want to do. So I just got my maker knife from Jaco, and it's awesome. And it's got a ceramic blade. It came with 3 of these, and it's definitely sharp, but what I'm curious about is how durable it is compared to other blades. Now, I have the blades I usually use for cutting foam, these sort of wider snap-off blades in a couple of different sizes. That's one type of blade, and I have a bunch of replacement ones here. But the maker knife uses these shaped blades, and you can see I have a ton of them. Just cheap ones from Harbor Freight, these guys right there. What I want to compare is the sharpness of this to the ceramic blade, and the durability of this compared to the durability of that ceramic blade. And just for giggles, I've got some Persona blades here to show off as well. So, first, let's talk sharpness. The test everyone does is a piece of paper, your sharp knife, and then you try and cut a nice bit there. The thing is, there isn't a lot of resistance here, so if the blade isn't sharp, it'll start to grab the paper. That seems to work pretty well. It grabbed a little bit there. Pretty sharp. Let's try the ceramic blade. Like that. This is just effortless. This is crazy sharp. Let's see the Persona blade. Now these are used for cutting hair, usually hair shaver blades, but they are insanely sharp. This feels a little bit more like the ceramic blade. Let's try this guy again. Still quite sharp, but it's not the same. It's not, if there's any resistance at all, it binds up a little bit. So yeah, Persona blades, crazy sharp. Ceramic blades, also crazy sharp. So the next thing I want to test is durability by cutting a lot of foam. Foam will dull the crap out of these blades. So I want to see how well these ceramic ones hold up. And of course, just for fun, we'll try the Persona blades as well. I have the regular, really cheap Harbor Freight blade loaded up. These are 6 inches wide, so every cut should be the same length. And with a fresh blade, no problem. Nice clean cut. And I'm just going to cut a bunch of strips until the blade starts to tear. Until it starts to pull a little bit at the foam. This type of blade, now I usually use these longer blades now for foam, but this is exactly the type of blade I used when I made my Mass Effect armor way back in forever ago. It worked just fine. I just had to throw a lot of them out. I didn't even have a sharpener at the time. I just used them until they got dull and then threw them away. But a pack of these, this many blades at Harbor Freight is just like a couple bucks, so it's not too terrible of an investment. I can already tell this is not, it's not as effortless as the other 2 blades. You can see it's pulling a little bit. It's still cutting really well, but it's not, I have to push a little harder to get it all the way through. There, it pulled a little bit. Oh no, wait, there's a piece of metal in there. There was a piece of metal embedded in there. You know what, this is a floor mat from the floor, and I think there was a shard of something jabbed in there. Definitely not cutting with the same efficiency as before. So I have to push harder, which makes it less safe. I'm going to keep cutting and see how many pieces I end up with. I'm at about 23 cuts, and it is starting to tear. You can see the edge is pulling a little bit in the middle there compared to a cut from earlier. That's a lot cleaner. This isn't terrible, but this is when I would go reach for my sharpener to refresh this blade. So that'll be our standard, 23 cuts. So now I can swap out for the ceramic blade over there and see how many cuts that does. I don't know if I could sharpen this or not, but let's see how well it does with foam. So that cuts a lot nicer than the normal blade here. That was a really nice cut. The main thing is that you don't have to push very hard. Since it's so sharp, you're not exerting as much force, which gives you more control and is quite a bit safer.
Alright, I'm going to cut a bunch of these out. we'll see how it turns out.
Quick check-in. I've cut 50 pieces off, and the first cuts and the last cuts look identical. I don't think this thing has gotten dull at all. You can see, I don't know if you can see on camera, but the blade does get chipped a little bit, so anytime I hit like a piece of cruddy, something that's jammed in the foam there, it gets chipped, but it doesn't seem to affect the sharpness too much. So yeah, I've done well over double the cuts, and it doesn't seem to have dulled at all. So yeah, maybe I'll just cut some more. Well, I just cut 30 more, so we're at 80 total, whereas this blade started to have problems at 23. So this does not seem to be getting much more dull. The blade is definitely dinged in a couple of spots. I know I hit like, I hit this shard of metal in there, and that definitely dinged it. But again, it doesn't seem to have any impact on the sharpness. So I'm not going to waste any more foam. This is 80 plus and it hasn't got dull yet. I imagine if you bought a handful of these, you would just expect them to last a very long time. Although I'm not sure if you can sharpen them. I can't test sharpening it because it's not dull. Any attempt I have to sharpen this will probably only make it less sharp. So we're going to call that big thumbs up on the ceramic blade, and I'm going to test the Persona blades. A little awkward to hold, but still possible. These do cut foam like a dream. But how durable are they? That's what we want to know.
Keep me in there. There we go. That's weird. Anyway, I'm going to cut a bunch of these and I'll get back to you.
Alright, I'm at about 50 cuts on the Persona blade, and it is definitely, it's still cutting well, it's just requiring a little more effort. Also, I should point out that for all of these blades, you can flip it over to use the fresh side, so you would get double the performance out of either one. I've only been using one side of each of these to keep everything consistent. So this guy here, it does take a bit of pressure to really do it. If I use the fresh side, it cuts so much nicer. So it still cuts really well after 50 cuts, just requires a little more effort. When compared to this guy here, after 80 cuts, it still requires almost no effort to cut. So yeah, big thumbs up for these ceramic blades. The Persona blades are really great. They're scary sharp. The edge of it's looking quite beat up here from having used it. You could sharpen these, but there's no way you're going to sharpen it by hand better than the way it comes out of the box. So it's very common with these to use them and then toss them when you're done, because you're not going to get them that sharp. Same thing with this guy. I don't think you can sharpen this. Even if you could, you probably wouldn't get it as sharp as it is out of the factory. However, these things are probably a lot more expensive. I'll look up and see what everything costs per unit, and you can decide if you think it's worth buying some fancy ceramic blades. I think they're pretty cool. So the cheap blades here, the ones I bought 100 of, those come out to 10 cents a piece. Ceramic blades, now I don't know what brand Jaco used for his. I only saw a couple available on Amazon, and they range between $4.65 per blade and $6.65 again per blade. So we're talking 40 times the amount of these. So 40 of these equals in cost one of these. So is it worth the money? That's a hard sell. That's a lot of blades you can buy for one of these. I will say the reviews on both of these different products I found on Amazon, these are just two different listings of two different brands. The reviews were not great. Some of them said that the blades were not sharp out of the box, which would defeat the purpose. Again, I don't know what brand this is. This one seemed to perform very well. The two I found on Amazon, not so much, and the cost is drastic. The Persona blades, easy math, they're about $1 a piece. So a lot more cost effective, drastically sharper than these guys right here. And they do seem to last quite a bit longer than those guys right there. So I know some people who do foam work in Hollywood, and they seem to be big fans of these guys. At that scale, buying a box of these for $10 or 100 of these for whatever becomes more cost effective at that scale. So I don't know if that's great for a hobbyist. Anyway, those are the numbers. You make your own decision. Are these ceramic blades worth it? I don't know, but I have 3 of them that came with my maker knife, and they seem to work really well, so I'm going to keep using them. This has been the Blade Corner with Bill, and I hope you enjoyed a little bit of comparison here. Yay. Up next on the bench is this fella. You guys voted on which little kit I should paint, and I'm going to paint this guy. It looks pretty good so far. This was again given to me from my friends over at Level 52. Looks like there were a couple of bubbles they filled in with super glue. I'm not sure how those are going to look, but I think what I'll do is prime this first and see how those look with a little bit of primer on them. But first I need to drill a hole in the bottom so that the stand can go in there, and then that'll also give me something to rest it on when I'm spraying it. Alright, let's try and be a little careful about this. Oh, and it's hollow. Great. Piece of cake. Now, ta-da! That looks all right. This is a 3/4 inch bit, so I'm gonna go find a 3/4 inch dowel and hopefully make a little stand for this guy. Ta-da! This is the base. This is also my new spray booth. And I'm just killing the end of this can here. And now I need that to go away. There we go. And then it's time for this fella here. I'm gonna go with this primer here because it's what I got. There's also a lot of fine detail in there. I don't want to destroy it. I know this is really compelling, painting a gray model white. There we go. Just let that dry. Primer's all dry. Decided that there are a couple of blemishes on here, but I'm okay with that. So, for example, a little bit of a indent from the molding and casting on the back of his head. I could fill and sand that, but I'm not gonna. I'm kind of jonesing to throw some paint. So, for the base like skin tone, and I want to go with a variety of colors so I get some nice depth in there, but the base coat I want to be like a really pale green. I'm gonna go with these golden paints again. I don't have a green, but do have blue and yellow. And I'm gonna use just a tiny bit to make a green and then a lot of white so that I can I really want it to be extremely pale. So just a little bit of blue and yellow, but I think more yellow than anything. And that's just the tiniest amount. Normally I would add this to the white, but it's such a small amount. I'm just gonna do it this way. And then lots of white, and hopefully that'll pick up a lot of that, yeah. Almost like a lime green. I don't know if that's coming through. But that looks pretty nice. Very, very close to white. So if we look at our dude, I put white primer on there. So that's my pale green, and that's what's on there now. So I'm gonna hit this with a base coat of this stuff here and see how it looks, and then probably give it plenty of time to dry. I like feeling the feeling you get when you're working on a project and another project is drying, or the glue is curing, or the resin's setting, or whatever. I feel like I'm being twice as productive. Got a white model and a pale green paint. And I'm just covering this up. I don't need to do anything fancy. I'll probably do 2 passes like that compared to what it looked like before. I think that's gonna do it this week. I'm gonna let that fella dry. I have lots of other stuff to work on, but next week I'll dive back into it. I want to do more fun stuff with the airbrush, maybe try putting like veins and stuff on him. I've never done anything like that before, so this will be a fun experiment. And I'm looking forward to playing around a bit. Let's see. I think that's all I have for you this week. We just got back from a trip, so we're getting caught back up on a bunch of stuff here in the shop. Britt's getting next week's video edited. That guy right there. And I'm really excited for you guys to see that and see how it turned out. What else? Let's see. We have a ton of stuff coming up very soon. We reached out to a couple of different companies to do some fun sponsored videos. That's exciting because that gives us some opportunities to do some really fun projects we wouldn't get to do otherwise. So I'm excited to share those with you. I know I didn't give you a lot of information. I will tell you as much as I can when I can, but I'm very excited about some of the cool stuff we're going to get to do here very soon. I think that's going to do it. I don't have a ton. Like I said, just got back from a trip. Went to see Brittany's family. We got to spend some time in Florida in the sun, which was wonderful. And now we're back in the shop and firing on all cylinders. That's going to do it. Thanks as always for the support. You guys are fantastic. Keep it up, and I look forward to seeing what we can make in the future. All right. See you next week.